Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of our Perfectly Twisted show.
Seems like around the holidays, you find a lot of people that aren't so perfectly twisted. Just a little bit twisted.
Well, I will tell you what. Remember, on the last episode, I was bragging about all the online sales and having it delivered. So 3 packages now. I mean, 3 packages that said delivered, and I got nothing.
Really?
I received absolutely nothing. So I am on the chase for these 3 items that are gifts and have not arrived.
Do
So maybe
they?
it's not all it's cracked up to be.
Are you sure they weren't stolen?
Well, no, because I have cameras everywhere.
Okay,
So
good, good.
I would
Okay.
know that something was delivered, and then I would know that
Yes.
somebody was on the porch. No,
Oh, yeah. Good.
but
Good for
they
you.
they say delivered, but it's not. But it's not
Oh,
here.
no, I think that's the worst for a lot of people. Christmas time, where you're like, "Hey, this is a great gift. It just has to get here before the big day," and then you start panicking.
And is it like, what is it like? The delivery guys maybe like they get behind and they just say things are delivered. And they're not? I mean, I don't know how this works because at least with Amazon, they have to take a picture when they leave it.
Yeah.
So they have proof and all that, but these other ones, they don't. They just say it's delivered and you're like, "Where?" So I'm just kind of curious if there's some shady delivery guys out there that like get
Oh,
behind on what they're supposed to be doing and mark it delivered and don't deliver it.
yeah. Well, it's the busiest time of the year for these people for sure. I mean, you always see
Sure.
them driving at night. It's dark. It's a long, long day on how it works. But yeah, you're gonna get caught if you're gonna lie and say, "Hey, I delivered something," and you didn't. Guess what? We all are able to track now. It wasn't
No,
like
but
that
the
when you and I were
tracking, it says
kids.
they delivered it. If
Yeah.
they don't have to take a picture, if they're not required to take a picture, how do they prove? I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know. I know they're overworked. I know it's a rough time of year, but I would like the stuff I paid for.
Of
I would
course.
I would like the gifts. Okay, and so I have a product alert because I was also talking about that I had another one of those CVS 40% off coupons burning in
Yeah.
my pocket, and I wanted a moisturizer. So I went and got the Bubble brand. Can you see it? No,
Can't.
there.
There you go. You go. Caught it in the turn it a little bit.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard
There
to
you go.
see my light. Um, but it's the Slam Dunk, like a daily moisturizer. It's $16.99. I got 40% off. You do that math. It's everywhere, Ulta, Target, CVS, online, you name it. And it's really great. It's just a great daily for normal skin moisturizer. And I think it's really geared towards the teens because it's in the box, so you can't steal it. So a
Yes.
lot. I don't know what areas you live in, but here in LA, when a product is popular, it they lock it. They lock it up because it gets stolen. And I don't
Well, for
know.
men, they put razor blades behind glass now. You can't buy razors without going to someone to get a key.
Yeah. And I don't know if I talked about this product before or not. I'm kind of feeling like I did a bubble product, but I don't know that it was this moisturizer, and it has the cute like touch pump so you don't have to put your fingers in it. Um
Perfect.
yeah, so I think it's good for all ages. I love it. Um so that's my go-to. Still, again, if you know of another one, cuz I go through this like crazy. If you know of another one, let me know.
I tell you though, for your daughter, and you said she has the taste in that same direction, but more expensive taste. It sounds like you have an idea for stocking stuffers right there. This is like
Yeah.
stuff that you get her to put in the stocking. Say she's gonna steal it from me anyway. I might as well stick it in the stocking.
Well, she has it. She does have it already. Um I just haven't used it, but I'm using it now.
There
I
you go.
think I've used it, but I don't know. I have a holiday brain, so but anyways, we have a really fun guest today because I sort of consider myself a little bit of a valley girl. I mean, I have resided all over, but I've resided in the valley for a number of years, and I have a love for it because I feel like it's kind of a bit of suburbia in LA County, and you still get that vibe of like riding your bikes and coming home when the street lights come on. You can still do that. Whereas in LA, there's beautiful neighborhoods, but you're not really riding your bike around. You're gonna get killed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're gonna get smashed. So I love the valley. And anyways, he also grew up in the valley, and He is a historian on it. He collects all kinds of amazing things and has this amazing museum called Valley Relics Museum. And he collects all kinds of like iconic signage to BMX bikes, but I will let him describe it because he obviously knows so much more than I do. I've just been there and got to experience it. So let's introduce Tommy Gelinas.
Hey everyone. Hi.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. I was listening and not to get too far off the subject, I had the same thing happen. I bought a guitar on eBay and literally it said delivered and it was a total scam. They
Oh,
took the money, they had it delivered to an address down the street from my shop. And when I finally figured it out, the post office is like, it's a 2-inch by 2-inch box. And I go, well, the guitar's probably in the case, probably 1.5 feet by, 3.5 feet tall. They're like, yeah, it's not it. So,
So it was like
uh,
a little mini, like a little miniature guitar?
no, like a real, like, $5,000 guitar, one of my
oh,
nasty habits.
But what they delivered was like a little mini something maybe.
Yeah. So what
Because
they
I've heard of
did,
that happening.
yeah, so someone on eBay went on, they created an account, and then they got the money, and then they shipped it. So within a day or two, they'll get the money, right? And they can dodge at that point, but they did ship a package, and it shows delivered at 7 a.m. at the front door. In my shop, it's a factory, so there is no porch. And then, I put in the request and I talked to our regular mail guys and they're like, we didn't see any big package, Tommy. We're the only ones that will deliver. Then I called the 800 number. But yeah, it was so eBay, what was interesting, refunded my money right away. They know they got, they got took. You know what they say? If it's too good to be true, it's
Yeah,
too good to
then
be
it
true.
is.
Yeah, it was a deal. So first time though, first time. So I'm not going to get too jaded.
Well,
But
I'm glad to
anyway,
hear that eBay refunded you your money though.
Yeah,
That's
right away, which
encouraging.
was, yeah, I didn't have to fight for it. That's the one thing. They'll protect the buyers, sometimes not so much the sellers. So, uh,
Interesting.
yeah. But anyway, that's Valley life for you.
Yeah,
um,
no
but
packaging.
yeah, I born and raised in the Valley. Came from my mom. Moved from I want to say Tennessee, and then Virginia, and then Maryland, because my grandfather was in the service. And, she came to California and landed in the Valley and got a job when she was 18 at Republic Studios on Ventura Boulevard in Studio City. And then my dad was born in Massachusetts, in Cohasset. And this is like 1940, 1941. So my dad came out here to be an inspiring, actor, got several small parts, but they had 9 kids all here in the Valley. So we're all like born in the Valley and 9 kids. And yeah, so this is where, my everything kind of, started. But, being a Valley kid when I was younger, we had cruising Van Nuys Boulevard, huge car culture. Um, all the early BMX tracks started in the Valley. You can date, bicycle racing back to the 1700s, but as we know, BMX today, with all the legends of BMX, those tracks, those riders, a lot of them came from the Valley. And then you also had like Mongoose and Redline and Diamondback. I mean, just so many bike manufacturers were right here. So you had the early pro tracks in the Valley, you had the manufacturers here in the Valley. And a lot of the bigger, I mean, other bigger companies literally would come to the Valley to, get riders to ride for them in Anaheim or Orange County or wherever. So, car culture, BMX, and then like a lot of hot rods driving around the Valley, dune buggies. Um, and then a lot of movies were made here. You had
yeah.
E.T. filmed here, Karate Kid, Bad News Bears, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. For the most part, most of that was filmed here and a few other spots. So it was kind of like, Hollywood number two. And you had so many studios here in the Valley, But what's interesting is that not only was this area really rural, you had a lot of celebrities that lived here, such as Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz. They had a ranch in Chatsworth. They were married in Canoga Park. People don't, always hear about that type of valley history. Marilyn Monroe lived in North Hollywood and Van Nuys. She went to Van Nuys High School, as Robert Redford did. Then you had like James Cagney's ranch off of Old Melviny, Clark Gable's ranch. I mean, I can just go on and name drop, but they used to say when I was a kid, it was home to the stars, home of the stars, because so many people had ranch homes here. And a lot of that had to do with California was one of the first places to legalize horse racing. And so a lot of those celebrities, instead of moving to Kentucky or Tennessee, are now Nashville. They could have farmland right over the hill, and it was proof like farmland, and a lot of ranch homes and a lot of land. And by the time, I was riding my bicycle, no shoes, no shirt, long hair, naturally tan from the hot heat of the valley. That's why, that heat is why a lot of people don't like us on the other side of the hill.
Yeah.
They like being closer to the beach. They're like the valley, like there's no way. But so that's kind of my environment. And I explain to people that, there's a lot of different, whether if you're from Asia or Europe, their history is really old and it
Yeah.
goes way back. And our history is really young. We're kind of like the children of the spoiled children. But it's my cultural heritage. I grew up around motorcycles and BMX tracks and celebrities and things to do and some of the very first malls in the world. So you had all this stuff to do. And and so that's how I identify. So pop culture is my cultural heritage, and the museum, is 8,500 square feet of LA history, San Fernando Valley history. So it's all stuff that's been rescued or donated, and that's kind of how it took place in a nutshell.
It's so cool. You guys can go check it out at valleyrelicsmuseum.org, and also on Tommy's Instagram, which is Valley Relics Museum, and it's verified. But it's just also so cool looking, like the visuals along with the information. And you guys rent out for events too, right? So it's like this all
Yes.
encompassed space.
Yeah, we just did Hopeless Records 30-year anniversary there. There's like probably about 600 people, and what a great event. But we do a lot of bar mitzvahs and private parties and sweet 16s. And of course, anyone from LA that wants to be immersed in free arcade play, BMX bike, hot rods, huge vintage neon signs. It's such a great backdrop to celebrate a birthday. And that's how, we're a nonprofit. But it's those events that allow us to go out and rescue. It's those events that allow us to keep our doors open. So it was a way of creating a revenue stream to make all that fun stuff happen.
I
Yeah.
love the childhood aspect, just the memories that come flying back. I'm sure for Nicole as well. All three of us, we aren't that much different in age, but just as you're sitting there and you're talking about the valley and the way it was, and for a kid that lived in West LA, and when you said it was too hot on that side, that's always what my family used to say when I used to go, "Why aren't we moving over to the valley?" It seemed like I have so many friends in the valley. Oh, it's too hot over there. You can't you can't go over there,
Yeah.
but it always seemed like more fun in the valley.
Yeah.
Well, and more homes had pools, right? So then the kids would drain the pools and skateboard. And skateboarding was a huge culture here too, because you could do it on the street,
You know
whereas in
what?
LA you get hit.
That's a good point. And what people don't realize is that on the other side of the hill, Santa Monica, Venice, all the way up the coast, is you had the ocean, and the valley had the swimming pool. So that's where they marketed it, to kind of cool down. That's why there were so many swimming pools. We were considered the sidewalk surfers, but we had one of the first skate parks was Reseda Skatercross. And since it was one of the first, a lot of the Dogtown clan would come over, and a lot of people skated there. I mean, you could think of anybody and they go, "Yeah, I skated there," because it was very competitive. They had a lot of the competitions there. So yeah, the skateboarding deal and the swimming pools. But yeah, we would not only drain the pools and skateboard, we would also ride our BMX bikes in those pools as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And the signage I love. So like things like Henry's Tacos, it's so funny because when I love obviously it's a beloved taco stand in the valley, and they were losing their lease. They ended up opening across the street like Caddy Corner, but they lost their space and their sign was gone. Tommy got that sign. And it's just one of those like it's so dang cool. It's just so cool, and it's like it makes you feel like okay, it's not gone. It's like it
Yeah.
gives you that warm and fuzzies. It's that the signage is just like because it's visual. It gives you that warm and fuzzy and childhood like good vibes.
Yeah, there's a friend of mine. His name's Charles Phoenix, and he's a very flamboyant historian, author, and does a lot of these vintage slideshows. He refers to the valley as the world's most famous valley. And when you said Henry's Tacos, I mean, Henry's Tacos appeared in almost every emergency, Adam 12. I mean, it was just it was a backdrop for so many movies, as a lot of these locations were. So, people go, oh, so, and I know probably whoever's listening would go, so you got to kind of be from the valley to appreciate this museum. And I try to explain that the valley history is global history. The movies that we filmed here, the celebrities that lived here. Um, we produced 62 million Chevrolets in the valley. It was home of the Camaro. It's where the first Camaro rolled off the assembly line, and that became like the home of the Camaro, where it was produced, where it was made, the prototype. It became so popular between the Firebird and the Camaro and a lot of those GM cars. Then they started, branching out to, I believe, Canada and like Atlanta, something like that, to help keep up with the demand. Um, and then, the some of the world's, greatest airplanes and warplanes and were all made in the valley, and a lot of the satellite rocket engines were all made in the valley. So our history has a really far outreach. And so if you like pop culture, for example, not only California or LA, but the valley, has a lot to do with what fast food has today. The whole concept was pretty much spawned from what happened here. And fast food back in the day, I remember going to Taco Bell back in the 70s, and they would literally chop the tomatoes up. You could see them chopping tomatoes up, grating the cheese, cooking the beef fresh, seasoning it. Everything was fresh, and they would have to constantly re-up it. And so when you ordered a taco, man, it was fresh lettuce, it was fresh tomatoes, fresh beef. I mean, it was fantastic. It's a little bit different today, but there's so much history here, and there's like layers and layers. We could do a 4 episode on a lot of the families that lived here and the inventions that were made here. So that's what got me interested. There were so many layers of history that I didn't even know about, and the farther I kind of dug into the history, the farther back I would go. It's just like every little layer is like a rabbit hole of just coolness. So yeah, and it's where I'm born and raised, and I believe charity should begin at home. So
Yeah. Wait, so like when you were gonna go pick up, say, like one of your first big signs that you saved, what do you do? Like, how do you transport that? How do you deal with
I
that?
had,
Like,
I
tell
had
me about
no
that
idea.
because it's
Yeah, I
crazy.
had no idea what I was doing. I didn't really plan a museum. What it was, about 20 years ago, I was looking on the internet, 22 years ago, trying to figure out, like, get the story on Marilyn Monroe. Like, okay, I heard she went to Van Nuys, and I heard she lived in North Hollywood. I heard she worked at a factory in North Hollywood in the aerospace industry. And when you search, Marilyn Monroe, it's like it talks everything about her career, everything in Hollywood, and nothing about the Valley and where she grew up. And same with Robert Redford and so many others. So I'm like, that's really strange. And, LA, Beverly Hills, West LA, like all that is so documented, with all the glitz and glam of Hollywood and the LA area. And the Valley was a getaway for the celebrities. So it was kind of a place to get away from all that. And it was just right over the hill. And but the Valley is very underdocumented. So, um, the stuff I grew up with had already been around since like the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and it slowly started disappearing. Van Nuys, the General Motors plant decided to leave, then Lockheed, and then Boeing and all these different companies, which provided so many jobs that was part of the demise of why the Valley. Like I still love the Valley, but it's not the Valley I grew up with, and there's still a lot of nice areas of the Valley. All along Ventura Boulevard from Universal City to Calabasas. And then even I call it kind of like the crater, that you have all these nice towns and cities around the edge of the crater. Porter Ranch is clean and nice. Granada Hills is nice, and as you work your way around, to like I said, Woodland Hills, and then you get into Tarzana, Encino, Sherman Oaks. All those areas are still really nice and well kept, and it's in the middle where it needs some work, and it looks like they're finally starting to put money back into the Valley. Like the Valley is the hand that feeds LA. There's so much revenue, and we were number one in the nation in manufacturing for so many years that when we produce those tax dollars and we produce that revenue, it goes into the LA pot, and then it's supposed to come back to the Valley. So that's why we've been very unsuccessful of separating ourselves from LA, and then we wouldn't have the bureaucracy of getting things done. But LA doesn't want to let go because they know that they want that money. But yeah, so getting to that first sign, there was a place called the White Horse Inn. It opened up, I want to say 1950s, early 50s, and it was a 5-star restaurant. And it had this big sign that said White Horse Inn. And in the middle of the Valley, you didn't have what you have today, like driving down Ventura Boulevard with all the tall buildings and houses built everywhere. You could see the sign that said White Horse Inn from miles away, and 5-star restaurant, the best food, the best service. And my mom and dad used to go there, and then my brother got in an accident in front of there. It was a destination. We get on our Schwinn Stingrays, our BMX bikes, and that was the first destination, riding from our neighborhood to there. There was a liquor store next door. Then we would, cut over to the Kennedy Surf Shop in Woodland Hills, and then we did Topanga Plaza, then Northridge Mall, and then Cal State Northridge, and then back home. And that was, and the only requirement was be home by dinner, be home by dark, and you could take a sip out of the hose, a nice big swig. You could, call Uncle Arnie, hey, we're tired. We can't pedal home anymore. We throw our bikes in the back of the El Camino, and there'd be 6 or 7 of us Valley kids. You're able to sit in the back of a truck. You can't do that today. But the White Horse Inn sign was a landmark, and it had closed right around the same time General Motors plant had moved out of the Valley, which was right around 1997. And I just see it going by and going, man, there were so many memories there. The sign stayed up for so many years after, and everything inside was still intact, but a company called Northridge Foods bought it and used it for storage. And so I'd drive by, I would call, I could never get a hold of anybody. Hey, when you guys decide to tear this place down, which is usually happens, or sell it, can I have some of the booth, some of the signage? Can I have the sign outside? And they just thought I was crazy. They're going, oh, just keep calling back. And one day I was driving, I was late for a meeting, and I see him like literally bulldozing the White Horse Inn, and it was gutted. And I was like, oh my God. And I literally turned around late for a meeting and got in the crane's way. And I'm like, hey, I was promised the sign, And he's like, kid, basically, kid, get out of here. Like, we have a job to do. And if you're one of those guys that's going to hold up the job, kind of like with so many words, I'm going to break your fingers type thing. And I said, oh, no, no, no. I'm from the Indian preservation, and this is Indian burial ground. And so we can just stop it here and now, or you can give me the sign and I'll just go away. So lo and behold, I thought I could just, and that's a true story. The guy just kind of stopped and said, what do you want? He called the owner, and they go, oh yeah, we did promise that to him. He said, you have like till tomorrow at 10 a.m. to have the sign gone. Otherwise, we're just going to crush it. I went there with a friend and a ladder, not realizing as the farther that I got up to that second story where that sign was, the sign was 20 feet tall by about 8 feet wide. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but I ended up hiring a crane. And we had it, we had to saw it off at the bottom of the big heavy pole, to keep it preserved, and then get it down to the ground and rent a truck. And I was like, oh my God. But it was like this huge kind of like historical trophy that was one more place in my childhood disappearing. Is once I did that, I realized the bigger the better, and the older the better. And then I was posting this all along, on Live Journal and then MySpace, and people are like, the Valley, fuck the Valley. And I'm
Yeah.
like going, why the Valley? And I'm like, I don't care. This is important. And then the people, because there was social media was starting to really have a great, it reached out really far. People that lived in the Valley that left in 1980, left in the 70s, either moved to Simi Valley, Santa Clarita, New York, back to New York, wherever. They were like, I left angry at the Valley because the crime and things like that. But you're making me having a new appreciation for the Valley and its history and where I grew up. And, I really wouldn't change my childhood for the world. And I would probably never move back, but I really appreciate your page and the history. And there was a lot of people that stayed. And so that first big sign is what really kind of catapult. And as I would be on MySpace and then Facebook and then, filming videos of the rescue and then uploading them, people were like, oh, my dad has a sign in his backyard. It was Topanga and Sherman Way called DeYoung's gas station. It's been there since the 50s. Come get the sign. And then people were like, hey, so I call them the relic hunters. And there's just a wealth of hundreds and hundreds of people from LA and the Valley that keep an eye on stuff. And so if it can't be saved or preserved, and it's just the 11th hour, we show up, we get permission, we have a great relationship with the city and business owners and community, that we don't want to see anything be torn down. But a lot of the stuff happens behind the scenes. And so, you got to kind of just wait, like I said, right till the last minute. Fence goes up, they start tearing stuff down. And it's kind of safer for us. So people go, well, you're just taking that sign just because. And I'm like, no, all of the businesses are gone. All of the themed restaurants, all Malibu Grand Prix is gone. The bicycle tracks are gone. All this stuff. There was no preservation in place. So it's like a fine line of saving it. But, you know, most of the historians and most of the preservationists I work closely with, and I'll call them and go, what do you think? Oh, we're actually, LA Conservancy is working on that. We already have a line on that. We're already taking care of it. Or behind the scenes, they're like, go get it and ask for permission later because it's going to be gone. So yeah, so that's kind of what catapulted. Was the White Horse Inn, 1950, this beautiful sign. And then, of course, Henry's Tacos was up there, like the second or third sign that we rescued. The owner gave it to us. But then a lot of the studio people and pickers were telling her, I want to buy the A to put in my apartment. I want to buy the T because that's my middle name. So I literally had to go to Janice Hood, the owner, and she was like, Tommy, I don't have family here. I don't have a husband. My whole family's like in another, state. My grandfather never bought the property, but he left the business to me. And I know how to open, I know how to close, I know how to order everything that we need for those delicious tacos. But I want to go back to college. She's in her, mid 50s, 60s. And she's like, I want to go back to college. I want to enjoy my life. And so as she starts saying, hey, you know what? I know I promised you the sign, but maybe you could take it down and hold on to it till I decide, do I want to, what I want to do with it. So I finally called her up and said, look, Janice, I'm going to give you some cash. And I know you could probably use it closing the business and all, but that sign's not going anywhere. Like it's going to the museum. It's going to the nonprofit. And so we made a deal, and she's like, no, I did promise you, but that was the only thing I could do to keep the hounds from literally, you know, taking those signs and it being split apart. And there's a lot of history at Henry's Tacos. It was one of the first gringo taco stands. Um, Back in the day, you know, it opened in 1962. So there was only a handful of those taco stands, and people didn't know how to eat tacos, you know, because they weren't hard shells yet. So, you know, that whole process. So they're part of that whole, like, and there's history with other food entities like the cousins and uncles that had started other, you know, well-known restaurants and stuff. So I was, you know, it's for me, it's, you know, it's probably cost me more money out of my pocket. And then the museum and the name kind of started to exceed me and got bigger than, you know, where, you know, there was a certain amount of output of labor and money. And it was, you know, kind of like my cigarette. I don't smoke cigarettes. And I don't drink beer. So I had a lot of, I have a lot of other bad habits, like I said, like collecting BMX bikes and guitars and stuff. But I had all this extra money, and I'm like thinking, you know what? It feels good to give back to the community, put pride back in the Valley, tell the history of how the Valley shaped the nation, especially in the car industry and aerospace industry and even movie industry. And so, yeah, that's the story behind. I mean, every sign. I mean, there's the original Palomino sign. The Palomino in North Hollywood opened in '49. Prior, it was called the Mule Kick, but the Palomino is what gave pretty much, you know, Elvis Presley's one of his first appearances there. If you look up Palomino North Hollywood, you're going to go, I had no idea. It's the CBGBs of country music, and everyone got their start there. So we have all the original signage from there. I have like stuff that like the owners' jackets. Uh, they were the first venue to get a country music award. I have all the awards. I have all the signs. I have a lot of, you know, the inside of, I could, you know, even have the sound system from the Palomino. That once I got the signs, a lot of the old employees started coming forth with, you know, relics. And so there's things like that. There's just a lot, like even the, you know, Mel's Drive-In from San Francisco, where the American Graffiti was filmed. They were repurposing and calling it, you know, Mel's Restaurant, not Mel's Drive-In or Mel's something. But I had one day to go out and grab this, you know, 30-foot long by, you know, 6 foot tall neon sign. And I had to send, you know, my brother-in-law and a couple other people, you know, in a truck. And I'm like, hey, we got 24 hours to pull this sign down, and we did it. We got it. And so those are the things I think that, you know, that LA is finally starting to, you know, care about the history. It's really just shattered you know, it's heritage, you know, and all the historic venues and historic homes. Hollywood's been pretty good. Beverly Hills been pretty good, but as you know, Sunset's been just stripped
Yeah.
of all of those beautiful buildings. And so, like I said, you know, the Valley has a huge outreach. If you haven't noticed, I like talking about history,
Well, no, it's
but
amazing. It's amazing. And you know, the San Fernando Valley is underrated. It always has been. I remember living here and like you said, people go, "Oh, you live over the hill." You know, like it was so cringy. And it was like, you know what? I like it over here. I don't have to drive around for half an hour looking for parking. You know, at the
yeah.
time there was free parking on the street. There was no crowds. It was quiet. I liked the heat.
Easy to shop, nice, you know, along Ventura Boulevard, really nice boutique shops, really
Yeah.
awesome restaurants. Yeah.
Really close to work because I worked at Universal Studios for so many years. Like, you know, so for me, I loved it and couldn't understand why everybody hated it so much. And
You know,
I still don't.
we just kind of, it was kind of like a secret, you know, we didn't, you know, they say that, you know, as an example, you know, people that have money don't brag about it or talk about it. Well, the Valley was kind of like that to us Valley kids. You know, a lot of people talk crap about the Valley, and we're just like, whatever. We didn't even have to, like, you know, try to
Justify it.
lane. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's like, "Fine, stay over there because we're good over here in the valley. You stay on that side,
it's
we'll stay
hot.
on this
It's
side, it's
hot.
fine."
It's hot, but we can jump in someone's pool, hop the fence, jump in someone's pool, and then get on our bikes and ride away, whatever.
Yeah, and it's not that far from the beach. It's kind of easy to get over to the beach, to be honest.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like 30 minutes.
yeah, it's not that bad, and it's a pretty drive. So all things San Fernando Valley, it's a gem. It really is, and so are you for preserving it all and
Thank you.
keeping it all alive and offering it for people to see. So again, everybody, valleyrelicsmuseum.org. Check it out. It is really, really special. You can rent the space. You can go on tours. You can have membership. They have a gift shop that's really cool. Um, and also Valley Relics Museum on Instagram. If you're on there, you can see some visuals. It's really, really, really cool looking, I gotta say. So thank you for sharing with us. Thank you so
Yeah,
much. It's
thank
so
you for
fun.
having me, and I really appreciate it, guys. Really
Yeah,
do.
keep it up.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy.
Have a good day.
You
Bye
too.
bye.
Talk to you later.
That's cool. One thing about LA, I should say, because anyone who's listening, watching to your podcast, Nicole, obviously we're in Southern California. I grew up in Los Angeles. You've been in Los Angeles. Basically your entire life. You've worked in LA and made a nice living for yourself in Los Angeles. What you don't realize is for people who aren't in Southern California, especially the Los Angeles area, there's so many things, just like Tommy said, whether it's movies or TV shows, where you know exactly where that is. And I mean, it's so unique to go, well, that's my neighborhood. That's where, if you're watching going back to the 70s or early 80s and you're watching Chips, you're like, I know that street. Or you're watching, any movie. It could be a mall, like Tommy was saying, that
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. I know that mall, Fast Times
Yeah.
at Ridgemont High. All that stuff is so unique to growing up in Los Angeles, whereas other people who didn't live in this area, like you and I, you don't understand it. And if I could say, let's say if you're listening to or watching Nicole show right now and you live in St. Louis, Missouri, imagine your entire childhood shows up in multiple movies and TV shows on a
All the
regular
time.
basis, and
Yeah.
it is so unique. And when he was talking, I'm sure you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking. Yeah, this is 100% what my childhood was. The getting on bikes, the hanging out with friends. I mean, the other day I drove by a 7-Eleven, and I just remember every time I see a 7-Eleven, and I don't go into 7-Elevens now, but it always reminds me of being a child, going and getting a Slurpee or just hanging out with my friends in front of the 7-Eleven, talking about stupid stuff, whatever. But
Yeah.
that's where a lot of memories took place, in front of that sign. And when you're
Yeah.
going through the different signs, and he was wearing the Pioneer Chicken
Yeah.
T-shirt, and I just remember as a kid sitting in the car looking at that Pioneer Chicken sign, just looking up at that thing over and over again. That was cool. I mean, the entire time he was on, it took me back to being between the ages of 5 and 17 years old. That was awesome.
Yeah, and it's awesome when you have lived here and to learn so much more about it too. So, it really is sort of just full of history and so much, and you don't really realize it, until
Yeah.
you have somebody like him who preserves it, and it's what we need.
One of the things I think is cool about your life is that you had a chance to experience, a lot of, LA County, basically, where, yeah, you worked over the hill in the valley, and that's where your job was. And that's where you realized, I really enjoy being over here. But at the same time, you're able to go back over the hill, and you spend a lot of time in, like Huntington Beach and with family there. I mean, you experienced, to me, what is paradise of Los Angeles, that you got to experience the whole thing. Most people stay within a 5-block radius, whereas you were able to
Right.
move around, and you had friends and family on all over the place.
Yes, yes, I did. I really kind of moved around. I've lived all over LA and of course Huntington Beach. Um, yeah, and I've always had an affinity for the San Fernando Valley because it just was that little bit of like peace and quiet in LA County that you just don't get on the city
Yeah.
side. And anybody who doesn't, isn't so familiar with the area, LA County is divided by hills and canyons that you have to drive through. One side is the valley and one side is LA City. And the valley is hotter. It's more spacious, it's bigger. And then, of course, you have the other side, which is the city, and it's hustling and bustling all the time. So it's divided like that. And Yeah, the divide came with a stigma. The Valley had a stigma, but I think a lot of people now move over here. The industry is like infiltrated the Valley.
Yes.
They wanna have a family and they want lands and they want their money's worth. They move over to the Valley. So
Yes.
it's not as quiet and sleepy as it used to be, but it's still easier. It's still easier than getting around the city, especially once you have kids. Oh boy. So
All
yeah.
right. Before we move on to mailbag, is there anything you recommend as far as what you're watching? Is there something that has jumped out to you that you started watching or recommend watching?
It's been so busy that I haven't really been watching much right now, but I still am sticking with Married to Medicine. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, it is good. Those ladies do not disappoint. They bring it. And the Potomac, which all of this is coming to an end. Everything's coming to season finales. I have
Yep.
been watching Winter House, which is coming to a season finale. And I've just sort of stayed in that realm.
Have you been catching up with Housewives of Beverly Hills?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What do you
Yeah.
think so far? What do you think as the season's going on?
Um, well, I must not think it's that great because
Yeah.
I'm not okay. Oh, can we talk about Denise Richards in this last episode?
Yeah. Yeah.
Arrived
That's
to
what
the
I was hoping
dinner
you would say.
intoxicated, clearly intoxicated, and continued to get more intoxicated as the night went on. And I mean, that's got to be one of those moments where I just feel for her because she had a bad experience with the show before. There's alcohol all the time around you when you're shooting those shows. And I'm sure she was nervous as all balls. Right. And so she's drinking and driving from Malibu to Beverly Hills, which is a long drive. It's a solid hour. And I mean, from the slurring and arguing with Erica to putting her coat on backwards or upside down or whatever that was.
It was one of my favorite scenes overall. I'll be
They
honest with
are.
you.
And the thing is, I know she's gonna be horrified when she watches it or when she watched it. She's horrified. She probably woke up the next morning horrified. But to put her mind at ease, it gives us entertainment. And listen, we get it. I don't think she's some raging, alcoholic or she needs an intervention or anything like that. I think it was a rough night and she overserved herself.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
But
I
so you saw it, right?
Oh, I saw it. It
Oh,
was the look. First of all, the look on everyone's face kind of would have been my face too, where she wasn't making any sense for people who didn't catch it. And
yeah.
everyone's kind of looking at each other like, are you guys catching that she's not making any sense too? Or am I the only one
Oh,
realizing
they're
she's not
all
making
high.
sense?
Okay, let's not forget they're all high because they're at
Yeah.
they're at
Yeah.
a weed a THC dinner party where
Yeah.
the food is infused with weed. So half of them are high, and she
Yeah.
starts on her drunk rant that nobody knows what they're talking about. So yes, their faces were gold.
Oh my gosh. And when she's doing you know what she did. I don't know what I did. You know. And she just it went nowhere, but she kept saying it over and over. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh my God, this might be the best entertainment I've had in a row for 10 minutes. Just it was going nowhere. And I was hoping it wouldn't ever go to anywhere, and it didn't. Just
it didn't.
because I wanted her, and I wish they had a camera on her when she watched the episode to go, what the F was I doing? She was so upset, but it went zero, went
And
nowhere. And for
she
just
had nothing
repeating
to say.
herself.
And the funny part was she was saying she didn't want to partake in the THC because she didn't want to get
Yeah.
high, but
Yeah.
she was like wasted,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
drunk or whatever she was on, whatever she was doing.
Oh
And
my gosh.
then she hit like a paranoid state where Dorit's trying to tell her that her jacket's on upside down or on
Yeah.
incorrectly. And she's like, don't do this. Don't you do this. I
Yeah.
know what you're doing. Oh my God.
Flat,
But do you?
yeah. They did it. She did it. And credit to Bravo
No
for
idea.
going back, showing what the jacket looked like when she walked in and then what it looked like at that
Yeah.
moment. And it was on like upside down and backwards and every which way. It was fantastic.
Something was wrong. It went from a full jacket to like a
Yeah.
shrug. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, I mean, cringe,
I
cringe,
loved it.
cringe.
Easily the best scene of the season. I'm with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
That
I
is
forgot. I can't believe I blanked on that one. Yes, that
okay. I'm
was
glad. I would have reminded you because I was about to
well
bring that
worth the
up,
watch.
and the whole Kyle situation is a little uncomfortable because you don't know which direction or how it's going to end up, kind of situation that she's not typical Kyle. So it's
I
that
know.
whole
Is it
thing is
me or does
depressing.
she just seem she's so uptight? She feels so uptight, like she's
I think
wound really tight right now.
yeah, I think you know what, I think you're holding so much in that you're trying to hide from the camera, I think, is my guess, is what she's doing. There's a lot of stuff inside that house that her
Yeah.
life's not going as well as it used to. And again, whether she's protecting her kids or she's protecting herself, there's obviously something way off. And I used to feel like she was the most balanced one on the show. And now with
Yeah.
hey, I'm just going to go out and pick up something to eat. Plus, I'm going to get a tattoo, just randomly grab a tattoo. Seems
Yeah.
like things aren't going well.
Yeah, things are definitely different with her. And it's sort of like, how do you to try to like hide something when you've signed on to do a reality show
Yeah.
like that? That's a losing battle. And I think you kind of in the end make things worse.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, do you bow out at that moment, or if you continue, I feel like you have to open up and you've got to let people know what's going on.
Yep.
It's what you signed up for.
Yeah,
So
it's
the
true.
whole hiding it is, like you said, it's uncomfortable and super awkward, and it just leaves people to make speculations, which most of the time are wrong, right?
True. True.
Yeah,
People always like excitement, and whatever's juicier, whether it's true or false, people want to believe whatever's the most exciting part. It's not their life, so it's easy to
it's
capitalize
easy to
on someone
judge.
else's
Yeah,
misery. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. All right, let's get to today's mailbag. Again, Nicole's mailbag. All you have to do is go to the website, perfectlytwistedpod.com, and it'll be right there at the top, Nicole's mailbag. We have questions from Tony Nakarado. By the way, we had a bunch of questions come in. If you put questions in, we'll try and get them on the show as soon as possible. But a lot of people over the last week have written in with questions. So, Tony, you're the one who we grabbed today. Okay, so please don't stop with the questions. We will get through as many as we can. Nicole, first question from Tony is, Nicole, what was it like being on Married with Children? You did an
Oh,
episode of Married with Children.
I did do an episode of Married with Children. It was supposed to be a spinoff. They wanted to do, I think, Married with Children. It was when it was coming to it. They knew that there was an end to the show in the near future, and the producers wanted to do a spinoff.
Yeah.
And so, on one hand, it was incredibly terrifying and so stressful because there was so much pressure. But the good news of it was, I was with people that I'm familiar with. Like, I've known Christina Applegate, who's just the kindest, sweetest, most generous soul. And David Faustino, who I'd known forever. Alan Thicke, I knew him forever. So I was able to and Matt Berlangi, who I played opposite of, I knew him a bit. And so there was like this, half of it was super scary and stressful. And then the other half was like, well, at least I feel good around these people. But just to be a part of that show it's amazing. It's something I'm proud of, whether the spinoff, because it obviously didn't happen. But yeah, to be a part of an iconic show like that is, it's a check, it's like, check, got that done, did that. And because I was a huge fan of the show too. So
Yeah, me
it
too.
was, I think, the world loved that show. So that was really exciting. It was really fun and also really nerve-wracking. There you
I
have
got
it.
to tell you, I don't think I've ever shared this story with you. My Married with Children story. So when I was in high school, my junior and senior year, as I just tell you, I used to get tickets to TV shows. That's where I first met Nicole, when she was doing Charles in Charge. And you filmed or taped on Thursdays. And Married with Children, I can't remember the day they taped. For me, I think it was a Friday. But anyway, I ended up with tickets to see Married with Children, and I was like, "Oh, that's great." I'm I'm a huge fan of the show. It probably was my favorite TV show on television at the time, because it was so unique. At the time, there wasn't a show close to that.
Yeah.
And just remember, well, I don't know, you work there, but they recorded on Gower, and
Yeah.
so it's not as the same area like where you were, where you did Charles in Charge, which is a little bit safer. And so we get tickets. Buddy of mine and I go. I'm a senior in high school, and at this time, by the way, for the people who don't know or have followed the show from the very beginning, when I was in high school, I used to ask Nicole out all the time. She never once called me back, but that's I'm over it. Okay.
Now you can't get rid of me. Now I'm on your phone every day.
Yeah, every time she calls, I always think in my mind, well, that was 35 years for you to call me back, but okay. So go to Married with Children, and the one thing about Married with Children, which is different than any other show I've ever seen, the actors were so solid on that show. There was never a mistake. And literally, if they stayed in that same living room, they could knock out a full episode in 30 minutes. And the only time they ever stopped was to go to the shoe store. And like, nobody
Yeah.
made a mistake all the way through. There's no rewrites, anything. It just, you were in for 30 minutes, you were out. And
Yeah.
so go to Married with Children with a buddy of mine from high school, and in between of cut and go to a scene in the shoe store, Christina Applegate started talking to me, and she asked me out, and I said no. And my buddy said, "How are you not going out with her?" And I said, "I'm waiting for Nicole to call." I was loyal to you all the way to then. And so we leave Married with Children. I walk out to my car, and somebody kicked in my window and stole my car radio. Remember that in the 80s? People used to steal car
Oh,
radios all the
yes,
time.
of course.
Yeah. And
Oh, because
I was
you were in Hollywood,
I
Sunset
was in
Gower.
Off of Gower. I was parked right on Gower. Yeah, that's what I was
Oh,
saying. It wasn't the
no.
same neighborhood. So
Oh, two
it's so
doozies. You dropped the ball with Christina, and then you got your
yeah. Well,
car
thanks. It hurts to
broken
hear you say I
into.
dropped the ball. It hurts to say that. So when we went to school the next day, the kid I was with, man, he just went on and told the story a million times. He told her no, and I kept saying Nicole's going to call. Never called. Anyway, Tony, thanks for bringing that up.
I'm
I
sorry.
feel worse. I'm gonna go in the corner and cry when the show's over. All right, here we go. Second question from Tony. Nicole, in addition to acting, did you ever also want to be a writer or director, or do you want to produce again like you did after the Baywatch documentary?
I think producing is more of like where I fit in. I like it. It gave me like a new zest for the industry. So, producing is something I would very much be open to, but at the same time, producing the documentary kind of gave me the acting bug. So I'm kind of wanting to do some scripted acting again too. Um, it's my favorite place to be, but I do love production because, like I've said so many times, I love the process and the journey of every project. So you really get your hands in that when you're producing something. It's from the idea to the sale to the green light to production to the sale of it. Um, and so you get to go along that entire journey, which, for me is the fun part. So that's why I love it so much.
All right, next question is Nicole, have you ever had someone ask you for an autograph or a selfie at a bad time or an odd location?
I guess I would have to say like the public restrooms are the weird ones. Public restrooms, but, at the same time, I kinda get it because you're washing your hands and, hopefully you're washing your hands in the mirror and you're looking at people and then you get recognized that way. So, and you're kind of, aware of your surroundings in the bathrooms, but quite a bit in public restrooms, yeah.
You know what? In San Diego, that's happened to me. That is my least
Is it?
favorite place too.
I think
That
it's
is
more
funny that you said
inappropriate
that.
for men, though. Men in the men's
It
bathroom is
is.
a little bit different, right?
Yeah, because you're standing next to someone else and your pants are halfway down and you're like, this
Yeah.
sucks. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. The restroom is the worst place.
It's
You're
strange. It's
absolutely right.
strange, but it's, it happens a lot.
Yeah. At least you're only washing your hands when you're actually talking to him. Yeah,
Yeah.
because then you're like, is this guy gonna go in for a handshake before we both wash hands? Like, what's happening?
What's happening
None of
here?
that's comfortable. Absolutely right. All right,
Love it.
Nicole, did your friends ever give you a nickname when you were younger?
No, not really. I mean, throughout some of my life, some of my friends call me Nicole.
Oh, I
So
like that.
Nickel, yeah, but that's it. Pretty much stuck to Nicole. I never really liked Nikki. My dad called me Nikki, but he was the only one allowed to because for some reason it sounded different coming from him. But
Yeah.
that was never like I don't know what I had against it. Looking back, I'm not sure what I had against it, but I hated it. And so it was never Nikki, but Nick, Nick and Nickel. Those are sort of floated around.
I like it. I like it. I'm glad you didn't do the Nikki thing. I think Nicole fits you perfectly. It's a great
Yeah,
name.
Nikki,
And
I
then,
was not a
yeah,
Nikki.
I'm with
Yeah,
you. I'm with you.
yeah.
All right, final question. Again from Tony. Again, Tony, thank you very much. Nicole, I see you now have an official account selling things on eBay. Are you going to branch out and sell other things in addition to personalized autograph photos?
I'm thinking about it. Yes, I have to it's kind of a lot of work. I I get so many, so many autograph requests, like, through social media, and we were just getting a little bogged down by it, so the eBay store seemed to make more sense, and it's just more easy and organized to send out, so that's really why I started that. It's easier on, myself and my team who put it together and have to get it all mailed and shipped and all of that. So, we're doing that. But yeah, I think that I will add things that are, definitely more rare and one of a kind. Anybody that doesn't know, it's Nicole Eggert Official on eBay, and you can get things customized and personalized. So for yourself or for a friend as a gift or whatever, you put the order in, and then when I do the signings, I can customize it to you, which is different than
Oh,
everything
that's
else
cool.
on the internet, because I see lots of pictures, autographed pictures of me that people have got me to sign, and then they turn around and sell it.
Ah,
Um, but it's not personalized, it's general, which, listen, there's nothing wrong with that. I also do general ones, but so that's sort of the difference, is that mine will be from, our office, and it will be personalized to you if you so choose.
do
So it's
you
fun.
when people request something, they say do not personalize it. In your mind, do you think right away they're going to turn around and sell this?
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah,
And they do.
yeah.
And they
No,
do.
it's fun. Yeah, it's funny. Well, in where I'm at right now, to my left, I have an autographed picture of Pete Rose, the baseball player, and we did like 3 shows in a row with Pete Rose, and it was to help him bring people in so he can sign autographs. He signed autographs for $75 every autograph, just signing his name on it. And so when the 3 days were over and there was no one around, I said, I want to get something from Pete Rose. And so I said, hey, Pete, can I get a picture autographed? He goes, yeah, $75. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I just spent 9 hours helping you bring all these people in. But I go, I am going to pay the $75 because I know it's going to be worth something. And my buddy Jeff had him sign to Jeff and sign, his name. And I said, no, Pete, just your name's fine. Because exactly when Pete drops dead, I'm selling that picture in a second. I was so
Yeah.
irritated that he asked me for $75. I did
Yeah, that's
exactly what
strange.
those other people are doing. Yeah.
Usually when people are helping me out, and I will always do for free. Well, I never used to charge for my autograph because I thought that was so strange. But then I see these people come and ask me for my autograph, and I like do it out of like the kindness of my heart, and then they're turning around and selling it.
Selling
And
it.
someone finally brought it to my attention and said, "This is a business. This isn't like, this isn't charity. This is a business." So then I was doing it, and I do donate to charity, the profits, but it's the principle.
Exactly
It's the
right. I'm with
principle.
you.
So,
You're
yeah,
right.
so that's where we're at.
You're exactly right. All right. Again, if you want to put a question into Nicole's show, perfectlytwistedpod.com, just look for the mailbag, submit your questions. We'll do our best to get them on. But otherwise, Nicole, that was a lot of fun. That was cool going down memory lane right there, talking
Yeah,
with
right?
Tommy and the Valley and all that stuff. That was a fun show.
Yeah, I really encourage you to go look at it. It's a great visual. It's a really, really cool visual. So, yeah, I was so glad he came on.
That was cool. That
Well,
was cool.
alrighty. Alrighty. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a comment, leave us a like, and we will see you either next week or the week after. I know the holidays is weird, so bear with us. We didn't do one last week, and scheduling is just a little bit tough, so bear with us.